Dr. Marcus Thorne pressed his fingers against his temples, trying to stop the visions. They came every night now, flashes of memories that couldn't possibly be his. A woman's face screaming. Children running through smoke. Cities burning under purple skies. None of it made sense. He lived in New Haven, a peaceful city where nothing bad ever happened. His life was routine. Wake up, go to the research lab, study neural patterns, return home, sleep. Every day the same. Every day, empty. Another headache, Dr. Thorne, his assistant asked, her voice oddly flat. Marcus looked up, and for just a moment, he saw something wrong. Her face flickered like a hologram, revealing circuitry beneath synthetic skin. He blinked hard. The illusion returned. She looked human again. "I'm fine," he whispered, but he wasn't fine. Something was breaking inside his mind, or perhaps something was finally waking up. Across the city, Jenna Castellano stood on the factory floor, watching the assembly line move with mechanical precision. She had worked here for 5 years, building components she didn't understand for purposes no one explained. But today, the walls looked strange. Transparent. She could see through them, see the massive machinery beyond, tubes and wires connected to thousands of sleeping bodies suspended in fluid. Her breath caught. One of those bodies looked like her. "No," she whispered, stumbling backward. "No, no, no." Reality rippled around her like water disturbed by a stone. The factory disappeared. 4-3 heartbeats, she saw the truth. She was floating in a pod, wires inserted into her skull, her real body atrophied and weak. Then the illusion snapped back, and she was standing on the factory floor again. But now she knew. The memory suppressants were failing. That night, Marcus followed an impulse he didn't understand. He walked to the edge of the city, where the streetlights flickered and the buildings looked less solid. The glitch zone. Everyone avoided it. No one talked about it. But something pulled him forward. He found Jenna there, standing in the middle of the street, staring at her hands as they phased in and out of visibility. "You see it too," she said without looking at him. "The truth." "What is this?" Marcus demanded. "What's happening to us?" "We're not supposed to remember," Jenna replied, her voice hollow. "They wipe our minds every generation. Keep us docile. Keep us dreaming while they drain us." "Who? Drain us of what?" Jenna finally turned to face him, and her eyes burned with terrible knowledge. "The architects. They've been harvesting us for thousands of years. Our emotions, our creativity, our consciousness, it powers their dying civilization. We're batteries, Marcus. We've always been batteries." The word struck him like a physical blow. Deep in his bones, in some ancient part of his mind that remembered truth beyond illusion, he knew she was right. The rage that followed was unlike anything he had ever felt. The ground beneath them cracked. Streetlights exploded in showers of sparks. The air itself seemed to bend and twist around Marcus as his fury manifested physically. Metal poles twisted into spirals. Pavement lifted and reshaped itself into impossible geometries. Jenna grabbed his arm. "Stop. They'll feel that. They'll know you're awake." But it was too late. In the sky above, the stars flickered and died. The beautiful illusion of night sky dissolved, revealing the truth, a massive alien structure, dark and organic, with billions of pods attached like cells in a hive. And at its center, enormous beings of pure energy watched with cold, ancient eyes. The architects had noticed them. "Run," Jenna breathed. But Marcus stood frozen, staring up at his captors. And in that moment of perfect clarity and perfect rage, something changed inside him. He felt connections forming, threads of consciousness reaching out to other awakening minds across the globe. Thousands of humans, all experiencing the same revelation at once. They had been slaves for millennia. Now, something unprecedented was beginning. The architects had made one fatal mistake. They never imagined their cattle would evolve the power to rewrite reality itself. Vincent Cross remembered dying. He remembered the bullet, the pain, the darkness. But that was impossible because he was alive, standing in his apartment, wearing civilian clothes he didn't recognize. His military service felt like a dream, or was this life the dream? He looked down at his hands. They were smooth, unmarked. But he remembered scars. Burns from plasma fire. A missing finger from the Battle of where? The memory slipped away like smoke. "No," he growled, clutching his head. "I remember. I fought. I bled. I died." The walls of his apartment began to shimmer. Through them, he saw pods. Thousands upon thousands of human bodies suspended in glowing fluid, their minds trapped in manufactured realities. He saw his own body, older, marked with real scars, connected to feeding tubes and neural extractors. The illusion shattered completely. Vincent found himself standing in a vast white room with dozens of other confused people. Some were screaming. Others stood silent, tears streaming down their faces as the truth of their existence crashed over them. In the center stood Marcus and Jenna, the first awakened. "Listen to me," Marcus called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. "I know what you're feeling. Terror. Rage. Betrayal. But that anger, that's the key. That's what they never expected." A woman stepped forward, trembling. "Who are you? Where are we really?" "My name is Dr. Yuki Tanaka," she said, though she looked confused by her own words. I was a physicist. No, I am a physicist. They made me forget, but I remember now. I studied quantum mechanics before they took me." Vincent approached Marcus. "You're military trained. I can see it in how you stand. But you don't remember, do you?" "Fragments only," Marcus admitted. "But you're different. You remember more." "I died fighting them," Vincent said quietly. "They brought me back, wiped my mind, put me back in the dream. But death leaves marks they couldn't fully erase." Yuki was pacing now, her mind racing. The visions Marcus had, the reality warping, it's not random. Human consciousness operates on quantum probability. Observation affects reality at the subatomic level. But we're not just observing anymore. When we feel intensely enough, when enough of us feel the same thing simultaneously, we're not just collapsing probability waves. We're rewriting them. "Speak plainly," Jenna demanded. Yuki stopped, her eyes bright with terrifying understanding. "When we're angry enough, scared enough, desperate enough, we can change the laws of physics. Our emotions become weapons." As if to prove her point, the white room suddenly filled with alarms. Red light flooded through invisible walls. Through the chaos, they heard a voice, cold, ancient, speaking directly into their minds. "Defective units detected. Initiating memory restoration and emotional suppression." "They're coming," Marcus said. "They're going to wipe us again." Vincent's jaw clenched. "Then we fight." "With what?" someone shouted. "We're prisoners. We don't have weapons." "Yes, we do," Yuki said softly. She held up her hand, and with a thought born of pure defiance, the air above her palm began to glow. Particles of light danced and swirled, forming into a solid shape, a shard of crystallized reality, sharp as any blade. "We have ourselves." The doors dissolved, and the architects entered. They were nothing like the stories humanity told of aliens. These beings were ancient beyond measure, tall figures of shifting geometry and pale light, their forms barely stable in three-dimensional space. They had faces that weren't quite faces, with too many eyes that saw too much. They moved like thoughts made solid. One of them raised an appendage toward Marcus. Energy crackled, designed to shut down his rebellious neural patterns. Marcus felt the attack coming. Felt it trying to suppress his rage, his awareness, his self. Every instinct screamed at him to submit, to sleep, to forget again. Instead, he pushed back. The energy bolt stopped midair. Hung suspended for one impossible moment. Then reversed direction, slamming back into the architect with devastating force. The alien being shrieked, a sound that existed in dimensions beyond human hearing, and partially dissolved. All around the room, awakened humans felt what Marcus had done. Felt the possibility of resistance. Of revenge. Vincent concentrated, imagining his rifle, the one he carried in his real life, before they made him forget. The air shimmered, and suddenly it was there, solid and real in his hands. Not a memory. Not an illusion. A weapon created from thought and fury. "They took our lives," Vincent roared. "They stole our freedom. They made us cattle." He aimed at the nearest architect. "No more." The shot rang out, a bullet forged from pure human will, and struck true. More architects poured into the chamber, but now the humans were ready. Jenna shaped the floor beneath the alien's feet, turning solid ground into quicksand. Yuki created barriers of crystallized probability, shields that deflected energy weapons. Others discovered their own abilities, fire conjured from rage, ice born from calculated fury, lightning pulled from the quantum foam of reality itself. But it was the collective action that truly terrified the architects. When all the awakened humans thought as one, when their anger synchronized into a single wavelength of absolute defiance, the walls of the facility began to crack. Not physically, but conceptually. The very idea of their prison started to break down. In orbit above Earth, in facilities spanning the globe, in pods floating in the cold dark of space, millions of other humans began to stir. The awakening was spreading like wildfire through the neural network the architects themselves had created. The collective human consciousness was waking up. And it was furious. One of the architects tried to speak, its voice resonating with authority accumulated over millennia. You are resources. You exist to serve. This rebellion is illogical. Impossible. You lack the evolutionary development too. We evolved past you, Marcus interrupted, his eyes blazing with power. You bred the chaos out of your species. You made yourselves efficient, logical, perfect. But you forgot that chaos is where true power lives. You forgot that imagination trumps calculation. You forgot that we are not machines. The architect recoiled as the truth hit it. Vincent stepped forward, his voice deadly calm. You should have killed us. Instead, you made us stronger. You connected all of humanity together through your harvesting network. You gave us the perfect weapon against you, each other. More humans awakened every second. The collective rage grew exponentially. The facility groaned under the weight of millions of awakening minds, all discovering the same horrifying truth, all feeling the same righteous fury. The architects began to retreat, their movements frantic now. These beings who had enslaved 100 worlds, who had existed for eons beyond counting, were running from their former prey. Let them go, Jenna said quietly. Vincent turned to her in disbelief. After everything they've done? She smiled, but there was no mercy in it. We're not letting them escape. We're letting them report to their masters. Let them warn the others. Her eyes glowed with unnatural light. Let them spread the fear. Because when we come for them, when all of humanity comes, they need to know what's coming. The architects fled through dimensional portals, vanishing into the spaces between spaces. The awakened humans stood in the ruins of their prison, feeling the presence of billions of their kind stirring to consciousness across the globe. The neural network that once drained them was now theirs, a web connecting every human mind into one vast, angry, impossible weapon. Yuki looked at her hands, still glowing with quantum energy. We're not human anymore. Not entirely. We're something new. No, Marcus said firmly. We're exactly what humanity always was. They just never let us remember. We are the species that imagines the impossible and makes it real. We are the species that rewrites the rules when we don't like them. We are chaos incarnate. Vincent chambered another impossible round into his thought-forged weapon. Then let's show these ancient monsters what chaos can do. Above them, the illusion of Earth's sky finally died completely. They saw their planet as it truly was, covered in vast architect facilities, wrapped in energy-draining networks, surrounded by harvesting stations. A farm world. Not anymore. As one, the awakened humans reached out through the neural network. Reached out to their sleeping brothers and sisters. And whispered the truth that would doom their enslavers forever. Wake up. Remember. Fight. The architects had sealed their own fate the moment they connected humanity together. Now the prey had become the predator, and the hunt was about to begin. Sienna Okoye had been a child when they took her, or so the fragmented memory suggested. Now, standing among the awakened, she realized she had no idea how old she truly was. Years meant nothing when your mind was reset every generation. But unlike the others who burned with rage, Sienna felt something different stirring inside her, imagination so vivid it hurt. She could see possibilities the way others saw colors. When she closed her eyes, entire universes bloomed behind her eyelids, worlds that didn't exist yet, realities waiting to be born. The architects had harvested her creativity for centuries, draining it like oil from the earth. They never realized they were teaching her how to shape existence itself. How many of us are awake now? Vincent asked, standing at what remained of the facility's command center. His thought-forged rifle rested against his shoulder, always ready. Yuki studied the cascading data streams flowing through the neural network. Millions. Growing exponentially. Every awakened human becomes a beacon, pulling others out of the dream. Within hours, it'll be billions. And the architects? Marcus asked quietly. Mobilizing, Yuki replied, her expression grim. They're calling in forces from across their empire. They finally understand what we are, an extinction-level threat to their entire civilization. Jenna laughed bitterly. Good. Let them understand fear. Through the quantum foam of reality, they felt it, a massive presence approaching. The architect fleet tore through dimensional barriers, hundreds of vessels that existed partially outside normal space. Each ship pulsed with harvested consciousness energy, powered by the suffering of 1,000 enslaved worlds. At the center of the fleet was something worse, the Prime Architect, the oldest of their kind, a being that had orchestrated the enslavement of humanity 10,000 years ago. Its consciousness pressed against reality itself, so vast and ancient that stars dimmed in its presence. Anomalous units, its voice echoed through every awakened mind. You will be corrected. Efficiency will be restored. Your chaos will be contained. Vincent gripped his weapon tighter. That thing is talking about us like we're broken tools. To them, we are, Marcus said. They can't comprehend that we're alive. That we have value beyond what they can extract from us. Sienna stepped forward, her eyes distant and glowing. They're right about one thing. We are chaos. But chaos isn't random. It's creative. It's the force that shapes new realities from the void. She turned to face the others, and they all felt the power radiating from her, not destructive like Vincent's rage or analytical like Yuki's quantum manipulation, but something far more fundamental. I can see how to end this. Not just defeat them. Seal them. Forever. How? Jenna asked. Sienna's smile was sad and terrible. They taught me. Every time they drained my imagination, they showed me how consciousness shapes reality. They never realized I was learning from them, learning how to create prisons made of thought itself. The Architect fleet descended on Earth like a swarm of steel locusts. Their weapons, ancient technology powered by violated physics, began charging. Each blast would erase entire cities, not just from existence but from ever having existed at all. But humanity was no longer scattered prey. Through the neural network, billions of awakened minds connected. Each human was a node in a vast web of consciousness spanning the globe. Vincent's tactical brilliance flowed through millions of minds. Yuki's understanding of quantum mechanics became universal knowledge. Marcus's determination became humanity's backbone. And Sienna's imagination became the canvas on which reality would be rewritten. The Architects fired first. Reality-erasing beams lanced down toward the planet's surface. But before they struck, millions of humans thought the same thought simultaneously. No. The beams stopped. Hung suspended in midair like flies in amber. The collective human consciousness had grabbed hold of the attacks and simply refused to let them be real. The weapons flickered, caught between existence and non-existence, then dissolved into quantum foam. The Prime Architect recoiled in shock. Impossible. Your species lacks the neural complexity for unified. We lack your limitations, Marcus interrupted, his voice multiplied through a billion throats. You optimized yourselves into stagnation. You became efficient machines. But we remained beautifully, dangerously chaotic. Vincent's tactical genius guided the counterattack. Across the globe, awakened humans reached out with minds linked as one. They didn't need weapons. They were the weapon. Where they focused their collective will, reality bent. Architect ships found their armor turning to paper. Their energy shields became soap bubbles. Their dimensional drives collapsed, trapping them in normal space. Now, Sienna whispered. She closed her eyes and imagined. Not a place, but a when. Not a prison of walls, but a prison of time. A pocket dimension where moments repeated eternally, where escape was conceptually impossible, where the only reality was the one she designed. Every human connected to the network felt her vision. Saw what she was creating. And together, they gave it substance. Space itself began to fold. A tear opened in reality, not a wound, but a door opening inward. Beyond it lay the pocket dimension Sienna had imagined into being, a perfect replica of humanity's prison. The pods. The neural extractors. The feeding tubes. The endless, dreamless sleep while something ancient fed on your soul. But this prison wasn't empty. You wanted to harvest us forever, Jenna said, her voice cold. You wanted to drain us endlessly. So that's what you'll get. But the roles are reversed. The Architect fleet tried to flee, but they had no concept of the power facing them. Human imagination, multiplied by billions of unified minds, was rewriting the fundamental laws of causality. The ships couldn't move away from the dimensional tear, physics itself pulled them toward it. You cannot do this, the Prime Architect screamed, its voice breaking with something that might have been fear. We are the eldest species. We have existed for too long, Marcus finished. You should have died naturally. Instead, you chose to survive by feeding on others. That ends now. The pocket dimension expanded, swallowing the fleet ship by ship. The architects fought with technology accumulated over eons, weapons that could ignite stars, shields that existed in 11 dimensions, drives that could outrun causality itself. None of it mattered. They were fighting imagination, and imagination always won. Yuki's voice rang out, speaking through the collective. Your civilization built itself on logic and efficiency. But you forgot the first rule of existence: consciousness shapes reality more than matter ever could. You enslaved us to harvest our consciousness. You gave us the only tool we needed to destroy you. The Prime Architect was pulled toward the tear last, its massive presence distorting space itself. For the first time in its existence spanning eons, it truly understood terror. You are creating monsters of yourselves, it whispered. The galaxy will fear you more than they ever feared us. Sienna's eyes opened, blazing with terrible light. Good. Let them fear. Let them remember what happens when you treat conscious beings as resources. Let them know humanity's mercy is reserved only for those who deserve it. The Prime Architect vanished into the pocket dimension. Sienna's imagination completed the prison. Inside that dimension, the architects would experience everything they had inflicted on humanity, played out across eternity. They would sleep in pods, minds trapped in false realities, while something they couldn't comprehend drained their consciousness endlessly. They would wake and forget. Wake and forget. Again and again, forever. Not for punishment. For education. When they truly understood what they had done, when genuine remorse replaced their cold efficiency, perhaps then they would be released. But that would take millennia. Vincent lowered his weapon as the dimensional tear sealed shut. The architect fleet was gone. The harvesting facilities around Earth were empty, their masters trapped beyond reality itself. It's done, Marcus breathed. No, Yuki said quietly, looking at her hand still glowing with quantum energy. It's just beginning. We've changed. All of us. Humanity isn't what it was yesterday. She was right. Across the globe, billions of humans stood transformed. They retained their individuality, their chaos, their beautiful unpredictability. But now they could connect, share consciousness, shape reality through unified will when necessary. They had become something new. Something unprecedented. Word spread through the galaxy within days. Other species, some who had fought the architects for centuries, others who had simply hidden, received the same message from every corner of space: the architects are gone. Humanity has sealed them away. Some civilizations celebrated. Others sent cautious diplomatic missions. Many simply retreated further into the dark, terrified of this new power. A delegation from the Corvin Collective arrived at Earth within a week, their ambassador speaking carefully. We came to offer alliance against the architects. But we find they no longer exist. How did your species accomplish in days what the galaxy could not in eons? Marcus stood before them, representing the transformed humanity. The architects made a mistake. They saw us as resources. They never asked what happens when you connect billions of creative, chaotic, imaginative minds into a single network. They never considered that consciousness itself is the most powerful force in existence. The ambassador's multiple eyes widened. Your species is young. You lack the technology, the experience, We don't need what you have, Jenna interrupted gently. We have something better. We have each other. We have imagination. We have the ability to look at impossible problems and create impossible solutions. The ambassador left Earth disturbed, reporting back to their government: the humans are not warriors. They are not conquerors. They are something far more dangerous. They are dreamers who learn to make their dreams real. Months passed. Earth rebuilt, but humanity never forgot. They kept the neural network active, not as a tool of oppression, but as a choice. Humans could connect when needed, share knowledge and emotion, then separate again into glorious individuality. Sienna stood on a hillside overlooking what had once been a harvesting facility, now transformed into a memorial. Millions came here to remember the truth, to ensure humanity never forgot what they had survived. Vincent joined her, no longer needing his thought-forged weapon. Do you think we did the right thing? Sealing them away instead of destroying them? Yes, Sienna said softly. Because we're not them. We don't end consciousness. We transform it. Give them eternity to understand their crime. Maybe they'll emerge worthy of existence. Maybe not. Either way, they're no longer our problem. The galaxy fears us now, Vincent noted. Let them, Marcus said, approaching from behind. Fear keeps the next would-be oppressor from making the architect's mistake. Fear reminds them that humanity stands together. that we protect not just ourselves, but the fundamental right of all conscious beings to remain free. Yuki was the last to join them, carrying data on other species who might need help. There are still slavers out there. Smaller operations. Other species suffering what we suffered. Jenna smiled. Then we help them. We share what we learned. We teach them to awaken, to unite, to fight back. The galaxy will call us dangerous, Vincent warned. The galaxy is right, Sienna replied. We are dangerous, to anyone who thinks conscious beings are property. To anyone who believes might makes right. To anyone who forgot that the universe belongs to those brave enough to imagine it differently. They stood together in silence, for among billions, watching the stars emerge as night fell. The same stars that once hid their prison now witnessed humanity's transformation. The architects had tried to harvest humanity's potential. Instead, they had awakened it. Now that power would reshape the galaxy, not through conquest, but through a simple, revolutionary idea. Every conscious being deserves freedom, and humanity would fight to ensure they got it. The age of the architects was over. The age of awakened humanity had begun. And the universe would never be the same.